Any person that's thought about actively taking their own life, they know exactly that feeling.
It wasn't so much that I wanted to die as I just needed a break.
What was going on in here at that point?
Self-hatred.
And my heart was aching. I felt so empty and void of worth. I thought it was a burden to people.
You know you want to be somebody else, but you can't see a way or a direction to that.
People that haven't been down that road, thank goodness they don't understand.
All right, friends, welcome to the Don't Change Much podcast. My name's Mike Cameron, and as I always say, I'm just a burnt-out CEO dude that has been trying to figure it out for some 57-odd years. And I'm kind of hoping that our guests here today will give us a little bit of a clue on what that means to have it figured out. Here with my co-host, Trevor Botkin. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Mike. But always inspired and excited to sail with the next generations of guys trying to make a difference in their communities.
Right? Like, I love this. And, you talked about the next generations. And I love today that we've got a bit of a mix of generations. And on this episode of the Don't Change Much podcast, we're joined by Zack Heil and Trevor McLaughlin, two dudes turning personal experience into action for men's mental health. And I love that we've seen so much of this. Zack's 19 years old and started Call Your Bros, a movement built around one simple idea. One phone call can change someone's day and maybe, just maybe, even save a life. Trevor's an endurance cyclist and a business owner who came frighteningly close to ending his life. Now he's preparing to ride across Canada again. I want to hear about this with Annihilate the Walls, a mission to break the silence around men's mental health. Different generations, different stories, but really the same message that men need to talk before the silence. Frankly, before the silence kills us. All right, Zack, I got to ask you, man. You're 19. I love this, and not to diminish because you're younger, but most dudes at 19, like my son's 25, just graduated from university, and he's not having these conversations. So no. Tell me about why you're having these conversations. I'd love to hear a little bit more.
The main thing that got me into this is I'm a very social guy and I have a lot of friends my age, and I noticed it so much where people, they just weren't exactly talking about how they'd feel, and it'd be like kind of like awkward. Like I'd be like hanging out with some friends or whatnot, and things would kind of get serious, but then it wouldn't. People would kind of pull back, or you just have those friends that just like joke around all the time to kind of like avoid the serious things, which if I had a dime for every time I've done that, I mean, truthfully, I can be that person.
Humor.
Exactly. But, that being said, sometimes I got into the habit of it more in the past like 4 years when I started, growing up a bit. It's funny me saying growing up as I'm still really young, but I would just like call my friends and they'd be like, "What's up?" And I'd be like, "I'm just saying hi." And they'd be like, "Is that all?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, you don't need anything?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, just seeing how you are. And they're like, "Oh, well, that's odd." I'm like, "Well, why is that odd?" And I would, shoot the text to some people that I haven't seen in a while since high school. I graduated in 2023. I would just be like, "Hey man, I haven't, I know we might have only hung out like 4 times, but I remember you. How have you been, man? Like, we had some good conversations." And yeah, my main goal here is to try and kind of be some form of voice for that generation and people close to me, as, like, hey, you can reach out to me if you're going through something. I'll be, an unbiased opinion, because I feel like a lot of people are really afraid to just speak about how they feel now about like everything, for that matter, for multiple reasons. Number one, they're worried about being judged, and they're worried about being different. People don't really want to be different anymore. People want to be judged. And, the most interesting people that we've had on this earth have been different. And, I believe one of the most mature things you can do as a man and whatnot is to, talk about your feelings with things and hash things out instead of kind of just keep it inside, because I've definitely been there. And, I'm not a perfect person. I'm definitely a flawed person, but I'll tell you right now, 99.9% of the time, holding it in and not saying anything is not the answer. And I have grown to find that relatively quickly. So that's kind of the grounds of where I'm at, you know, emotionally, mentally. Like you said, a lot of people my age aren't really talking about these things. And I'm kind of on the flip side, because I see why people don't, because it's easier to not talk about things, but then you just take on way too much there.
Zach, your level of situational awareness is off the charts. I definitely wasn't this thoughtful about my place in the world. I was barely taking accountability for myself and my own life and my own actions. I was much less taking accountability for the experience other people have in the world and how I could support them. So hats off to you. Trevor, what brings you to the show today?
Over the course of my life, I've lost a couple friends to suicide. I've had lots of friends that I wish I could have, if I could have one more conversation with them, just tell them that they're wanted. Maybe something would change. Maybe they'd still be here. I've seen the impact that happens when those decisions are made. And they say it's selfish, but also being in that position, it takes something to get to that point. And it's darkness. It truly is. You don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. It feels like it's 1,000 miles away. And being done with it is the easiest way to be done with it. So it was said it's going to be my second bike ride across Canada. Next June 1st of 2027, I'm going to be starting at Vancouver and heading east towards Halifax. And then for second leg of that journey, I'm going to go Ottawa to Windsor to finish it up, just to include all of Ontario. Rather than just taking off to the north part of it, I'm going to hit where most of Canada lives, in Ontario. A lot of Tesla highways up in the northern part to kind of breeze through. But along the way, I want to be able to have conversations with people. The slogan for my ride is every kilometer conversation. So there's about 8,200 kilometers that I'll be going. If I have 8,200 conversations, that'd be great. If I have 16,400, that would be even better. But we're going to keep the baseline at the 8,200 and see where it takes us.
Whenever I lose a friend, or my position was 7 years ago, I was ready to carry out my own end of life plan. And you try to talk to people, and I hear the argument like it's selfish, but really, when I was in that headspace, I felt like I was doing a service to the world. I thought I was alleviating the burden on my loved ones. I thought, and the other thing I try to convey to people is the amount of pain I was in, the pressure, the pain. So I try and, and I hear all the time about the selfishness side of things, but I'm like, that's not how it feels. Imagine hurting so bad that you have to end it, being in so much pain with no hope, that you would choose to take your life instead of carrying on another day. And that was a situation I found myself in. So, I don't think people take enough time to consider what that means, like what those events mean in people's lives.
A lot of people wouldn't entirely understand that concept unless they actually felt it. Because I've had conversations with people and they're like, I couldn't imagine killing myself. Like, I haven't, things can't be that bad. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's so easy to blindside the conversation and just say that instead of trying to actually understand. I have definitely had many friends who have felt that way, who have experienced that feeling. And I have definitely had those conversations where, to be honest, they have reached out to me. They've been like, I feel this way. And I've been like, listen, we're only 16. If it starts as early as this, for sure, absolutely. My mother, growing up, she had a very close friend, and his name was Ryan. And I believe when they were 15, he sadly took his own life. And they were very, very close friends, to the point where my middle name is actually Ryan after him. And, my mom, I grew up in a household where talking about your feelings and whatnot is normalized, and from a very young age. Like, yeah, my mother told me that. She's like, this is your middle name because of this. So I was introduced to that concept. It's a really tricky conversation to have, which is why a lot of people avoid having the conversation, and they'd rather just, laugh it off and be like, oh, like, I'm fine. And it's really not funny. Like, so it's,
Well, if I've learned one thing
it's
is talk
difficult.
about it. Like, talk about it. If you're worried about a friend, I think the first inclination is to hold back and not, you don't want to inspire something accidentally. But what I've learned and seen in action is just getting straight to the point and asking people, check in on them. Is this something you're considering? Where are you at on a scale to 1 to 10? Just let me know. But you know what? I would offer, Zach, that the quality of your upbringing is showing in the work you're doing right now. And so, this is one thing I try and keep in mind is the influence, the impact I have on my children is going to have lasting impact for the world well beyond my years on the planet. And thank goodness that a lot of people don't understand. Like they haven't had that experience. They haven't experienced that kind of pain. They haven't. And I'm grateful that not everybody has to go through that.
You know what I find really interesting in this? I mean, what we're talking about, I think, is empathy, being able to understand the feelings of another and just witness that and hold space for that. And we talk a lot about why won't men talk? How do we get men to talk? But Zach, what strikes me about you and Trevor, I'd like to hear this from you as well. But the question I've been asking a lot recently is, how do we listen so that men will speak? And Zach, you strike me as the kind of dude that, like, I would open up to you. I don't even know you.
I
So,
appreciate that. That's my exact goal there, to be honest.
right.
What a
But
gift.
how do you do that? How can others do that? What can we learn from how you do that?
So the way I try to go about it is, first of all, if you want people to talk to you and you want people to listen, you got to immediately drop any sense of ego or knowing better than the next person, because no one's going to want to talk to you about how they feel if they think that you're going to try and provide them a solution per se, or better. Some people just want someone to listen. You know what I mean? Like, not that they don't want to solve their problem, but they don't want an answer from you per se. They just want you to listen. And that is sometimes way more valuable than giving somebody an answer, is just hearing what they have to say. Because there are some people who they don't exactly have many friends to talk to, and they don't talk about these things. And I think a way to kind of to blindside them and go into a conversation is be like, yeah, I can talk about this. It's like, you're upset about something, for sure. It's like, you want to go out, you want to talk, I'm free. Absolutely. We can talk about things. You can freely speak your opinion with me. I try to be well spoken. I'm very big on manners, and just listening to people and being like, hey, I've had many conversations with other people, and I've heard these things before. Not that discredits what you're going through, or as if you're just another grain of sand. It's like, everybody individually matters. And I think talking about things is especially important, because it did take me a while to get here. I still do get nervous talking to people, and I still do get nervous when some people come and talk to me, because it's like, okay, am I going to be what they're looking for per se? I want to be that person that just, listens. And it took a lot of social development and self-awareness and recognition. And yeah, the best thing to do is, when you go into conversations, is just listen to somebody and acknowledge what they're saying. Like, even the minute things, it's like, okay, I can understand where you're coming from here. Cross-referencing to your own personal experience helps as well, as long as it's not a thing like, oh, like, yeah, I get it. I did this. It's like, not not two people have the exact same experience. People are going to feel things stronger, differently. So I kind of tend to avoid that approach as well. I'll be like, oh, this is similar to something I experienced with this situation, instead of like, oh, this is exactly what I went through, I know how you feel. It's like, okay, well then, if you know exactly how I feel, then why are we, you know what I mean? Like, I try to relate to people without discrediting their experience by saying, oh, I've already been through that. You know what I mean? Because no one wants to hear that. They want to be heard. So that's how I try to be an approachable person like that.
I've heard it said that that being loved and being heard, that the feeling of being loved and the feeling of being heard is so similar that the average person can't tell the difference. So, and that to me sums up the power of just sitting and listening and holding space.
Exactly.
For people. Trevor, well, you're going to ride 8,200 kilometers. You're going to have 8,200 conversations with people. People don't do that for no reason. What inspired this?
So I've battled mental health my entire life. As I said, I've lost a few friends. I hit a breaking point in my life back in 2022, where I applied for MAID in Ontario. I initially applied to talk to a therapist, and I was put on a 14-month wait list.
That's incredible to me.
So I went from the 14-month waiting list to my next phone call was, okay, how do I apply for MAID? Because I'm not going through this for another 14 months just to have somebody tell me come back next week. So after applying, I was told in Ontario that a voluntary MAID under mental health issues is not a probable reason for MAID. So as I was walking out, I had the nurse tell me, okay, well, you know, Manitoba, you can.
Oh.
So I spent the next few weeks selling off all my equipment, selling off my business, and planning to move to Saskatchewan. It was basically, I was giving myself a 50-kilometer bubble. I was going to try and make things work, find different happiness, and ultimately about 10 months later, I decided that the happiness wasn't there, and I guess the ease of the decision was greater than the difficulty of trying to get better.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Take us to the feeling. Like you've kind of walked through the thought process, but what was going on in here at that point?
It's tough to explain. It's like any person that's thought about actively taking their own life, they know exactly that feeling. Trevor touched on it before. It's the being the burden, feeling like you're just in the way. It's like that. There were days I'd be late for work because getting out of bed that day was my biggest accomplishment.
So the being a burden thing. So that's back to the thoughts. But like, where do you feel that physically? What's the emotion that comes with that?
Self-hatred. It's the you want to be somebody else, but you can't see a way or a direction to that. And ultimately the motivation to change your current situation is unachievable in your mind.
We've touched on this in the past, and it's this idea that, like, for me, I crippling mental health issues, and on top of just a crazy substance use disorder. One of my biggest challenges in that moment was I couldn't, like, I saw what better looked like, and it just, but what I was thinking would better, what I was envisioning as better was actually perfect. Right. And the distance between me and a perfect outcome, it obviously just seemed impossible. And I was like, I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to do that. And what I had lost, like looking back, what I really had lost sight in is these, the small steps, that end result is the culmination of a bunch of little steps that I need to get there. And and the other side is, I don't know what step to take first. So I had to get help, and I had to get it on my own head. But there's also this part of me that didn't necessarily, and this is a hard one, and I don't know, Trevor, if you can relate, is it wasn't so much that I wanted to die as I just needed a break. Like I needed my head to shut off. My head and my heart was aching. I felt so empty and void of worth. Like I just heard you say, I thought it was a burden of people. And I I just wanted a break from it all. I just wanted the pain to stop for a minute. That's why I'd been using the drugs for so long. And again, it's just like, I hear you talk about it and I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. But people that haven't been down that road, thank goodness they don't understand, right? Like, it's tough. I'm a 30-year carpenter. Very similar experience to like, in that I came in I was 19 when I entered the workforce as a carpenter. Was very proud. I was bullied quite a bit growing up. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, but when I was a hard worker, and I'd done a lot of building on the farm with my family. And so it was very valuable to people around me. I progressed very quickly in the trades, and I felt very proud that not everybody could do this job. I was like, these guys are tough as nails and I can keep up with them, and not everybody could do that. But at 29 years old, I blew my back out, had to have it fused, my L5S1. And I remember that's when right after that, within 6 months, that was the first time mental health became a challenge for me, because it went from like, I'm super tough and I can do this job not everybody can, to, oh my God, I got to do this really fucking tough job for the rest of my life. Right? Like, I didn't have a fallback. I didn't have anything but my body and swinging a hammer. And it was the first time I kind of felt trapped, right? Like, I'm not just going to go to my other job as an accountant and carry on. And it started, that's where like things really started to shift to a negative for me.
So that sounds very, like, you sound similar. Your personality and what you became known for was your work.
It's identity. Yeah.
It's your identity. So once that was taken away, you were lost. The moment you get in a situation like that, you don't have multiple identities. You have the single one. The moment you lose that, feel like you lost your purpose in life. That the only reason you were here was so you could work. And that was, I'm still in that position, to be honest.
Okay. It builds resentment.
Exactly. Right? If I'm not working, I don't know where I belong.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Trevor, thanks for sharing, man. I know this stuff isn't easy, and the courage, dude. I hate to say it, but this is the work, right? This is the work. This is your purpose, is to share this. I've been doing it for 7 years, and you've been doing it for a while now, and we do get to change and save lives. There's guys that need to hear from guys that look like you, that'll listen to guys like you, that won't listen to anybody else. And thank God you're doing this work, man.
No doubt. And that's a question that comes up for me often is, we continue to have these conversations. Do we need to have them louder? Do we need to have them differently? And I think, Trevor, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's having them differently from a variety of different voices and a variety of different faces. And again, Zack, this is why it's so powerful that you're willing to speak up and have these conversations. Tell us a little bit about Call Your Bros.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am very lucky to have a beautiful and amazing girlfriend who I've been with for almost a year now, but we've been friends since we were 11. So it kind of came out of nowhere. Anyways, I was out with her one night, and I was like, I want to start this men's mental health movement, and I'm going to call it Call Your Bros, and I'm going to try and raise $12,000 by the end of next year. And she was like, okay. She was like, she's definitely supportive, but she knows I'm a very creative mind. So I come up with a lot of ideas very often, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. And I was like, I'm going to, because it was pretty late, like I said. So it was, I was definitely a little bit sleep deprived, but I was like, I'm going to write this down in my notes. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to design the logo. And she was like, all right. So I woke up the next day, completely forgot about the idea. I completely forgot. I got up, I made breakfast and I opened my phone and I saw my notes app and I read it and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I was like, perfect. I was like, I'm so glad I wrote this down, because I do have a forgetful mind sometimes. And that's kind of the idea that I had with a project like this. But, one thing that I know about myself for sure is, like I said, I do lose motivation sometimes. I definitely overshoot. That's the thing that a lot of my friends go, they're like, you're very, very, you've got a lot going on here. Maybe you want to take this a bit. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make this a 1-year thing. I'm like, I'm going to start at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to go until the end of the year, and I'm just going to see how much networking I can get done in that time, how much I can learn, because, I don't have professional experience in this field, but I have, that social experience, that conversation, what I know from people. Every single one of my friends that I went to, and
Social
I was like,
experience is gold.
exactly. And, every single person that I went to with this idea, they were like, you're definitely the right guy to try and start doing something like this.
I'm inspired by how inspired you are. And I will say, in my own experience with my mental health and specifically with my depression, which I'm still medicated for today, still do a lot of work around. But I will say that the one reliable antidote to the deepest, darkest depths of my depression is acts of service and being of service to others. And I mean, no disrespect to anybody when I say this, but my depression is, and I say this with love, is a very self-interested disease. I spend a lot of time thinking about my pain, and I think about what I'm going through, and I get really hyper-focused on me inside. And when I do acts of service and I'm of service to others, it kills that. It takes me out of that space and where I'm now worried about other people, and it elevates me. And it's one of the hardest things to do when you're in a hole, but it's one of the things I try to force myself to do every time, because it does clear the clouds a lot faster than just sitting there with it. Trevor, where are you at today, man? What's going on? I know you're doing the ride.
So tell us about your campaign, Annihilate the Walls. Where did that come from?
Being in the trades, my biggest thing is trying to get more trades guys to speak up. That's where we lose a lot of people every year. The guys that put a smile on all day, they work 14, 16-hour days, go home, sleep, wake up, do it over again. They don't really have anybody outside of work to have conversations with. Or when they do say something, the next guy that he says it to could be hurting too, but the easiest way to take care of pain is out of humor. So they make jokes of it. And the jokes are great during those 12, 14, 16-hour days, but it's the hours alone that hit you the hardest.
Yeah.
Final word that you'd like people to take away from this conversation, Trevor, and Zach, I'll come to you with the same thing afterwards.
If you think that somebody doesn't want to listen to what you're saying, there's 8 billion people in this world. There's going to be one of them that will. There's no way that 8 billion people can agree on one thing. So there's going to be somebody that wants to hear what you have to say.
Nice. Zach, how about you? What's a takeaway you want to leave with our audience?
Well, takeaway I want to give is, if you're feeling a certain way, or somebody that you think is feeling a certain way, don't be afraid to, make that phone call. You know what I mean? Like, it's, for some people, one phone call can completely change their entire day. And, make that phone call to that friend you've had for 10 years who you've somehow not had that conversation with yet because it hasn't been normalized amongst your relationship. All it takes is one call.
So what
and
I'm
that's
hearing
why
you say is call your bros.
Call your bros.
Exactly. It was what I'm saying is just call your bros. That's the name speaks for itself. Call your bros, and that goes for anyone. Just make that call.
And how do we support you? How do we help you hit that and smash that, double that $12,000 goal you set?
That would be a dream. That would be my absolute ideal future. I have a landing page. I got a fundraising page on the Canadian Men's Health Foundation's website. It's under Call Your Bros. It's Call Your Bros, but it's also Zack Heil, my name. And I have an Instagram that doesn't have too much on it at the moment, which is just Call Your Bros. That's just straight up. You can find it there. And I registered the domain for a website, callyourbros.org, and I am slowly working on that with my computer programming friend Michael. So we're really in the small stages right now. A lot of brainstorming, a lot of like how can we bring this to people, especially locally, because Hamilton is definitely not the happiest place. There's some help could definitely be used here, but yeah, I really like the concept of someone hearing that. It's like it's just one phone call. Like it's not costs you nothing.
I'll say to anybody listening to this podcast, if you got some power, if you got some influence, if you got a few extra bucks, if we are not supporting men like these two sitting here today, we're not doing it right. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the action happens when people are inspired to stand up and create a better community for everybody and bringing people together. My hat's off to both of you. You guys are inspiring. You filled me up, filled my cup for the day and probably for the rest of the week.
You know what? It's always so good to have these conversations. And, back to what we started with, it's not about the superheroes. It's not about the incredible bios or resumes. It's about everyday people doing everyday things and just doing simple things like reaching out, calling your bros, having the conversations that moves the needle. And friends watching at home, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you check out our guests, Zack and Trevor. Find them online, share this episode, hit that like button, subscribe, do all the things that you're supposed to do that are going to help get the word out with this podcast. Gents, thank you so much. Trevor, again, always a pleasure having these conversations.